Welcome all to this week's edition of TV Coast to Coast, our weekly video chat about notable shows and highlights of the TV week ahead. Who am I? I'm Mark Dawidziak. I'm so glad we have these. This has been that kind of a week. I'm Mark Dawidziak, TV critic at the Cleveland Plain-Dealer and Cleveland.com. And joining me on the panel today are Vicki Hyman of New Jersey Star-Ledger and NJ.com, and Dave Walker of the New Orleans Times-PIcayune and NOLA.com. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Christy Turnquist of the Oregonian and OregonLive.com will be back in the rotation next week. But this week, we'll be talking about three very, very different programs from three very different programmers. First up, the comedy, starting this Friday on Netflix. The on-demand internet streaming service that has grabbed more than its share of attention with such acclaimed original series as House of Cards and Orange is the New Black. We know that Unbreakabl Kimmy Schmidt will get them some more attention. And that's because it's from 30 Rock writer-producer Tina Fey. So they're getting attention. How about a complaint? Dave?
Well, Kimmy Schmidt is like the greatest possible new addition to NBC's must-see TV lineup. It's got like bona fides that fit in through decades of time on NBC. It's got must-see comedy all over it. Tina Fey and Robert Carlock of 30 Rock are the producers and writers. They brought Jane Krakowski from 30 Rock with them. So right away, you can just see this pitch working so effortlessly. Add to that Ellie Kemper, who plays the lead, who people will know from The Office, an NBC property, from a classic NBC property. And then you could even throw in Carol Kane, which echoes all the way back to Taxi. And this show is an automatic, easy sell, NBC, put it on Thursday night, and you've got a hit. It actually even echoes the Mary Tyler Moore Show a little bit, in that it's about a idealistic young woman who goes to the big city and makes good. In this case, she escapes a doomsday cult, lived underground for 15 years, and moves to New York to make her way in the world. And that's who Ellie plays, the lead character. It's incredibly sweet and really sharp and very funny and broad. There's nothing really quirky or odd about it in the same way that there was really only a little that was quirky and odd about 30 Rock, a show about a show. This is actually more relatable than that, I think, and but very sharply funny and really well executed. I'm not sure if it's going to work as a bingeable show, though. I separated out the episodes I watched just because I enjoyed them so much, and I really loved letting them breathe. It'll be interesting to see how people consume this compared with the other Netflix shows. Which reminds me, this isn't airing on NBC. The tragic backstory there is that NBC ordered the show. They bought the pitch. They believed what the producers were saying and that it was natural for that network, and then decided they couldn't launch it. And, we talked a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I don't remember when, about how Parks and Rec really signaled the end of the era of NBC as a place where good, sharp, funny comedies would go. This would have been one of them, and NBC realized it could not launch this show in its current state and let it go to Netflix. Netflix has already picked it up for a second season. That's the great news. I think this show will run for a long time and be very popular with people. There are some people who maybe think that it misfires a couple of places, but it's smart and funny, and I think that makes it a winner. So highly recommended. The Unbreakabl Kimmy Schmidt on Netflix, loading Friday, by the way, all the episodes. And I'll toss now to Vicki. Vicki, what have you got?
Oh, something very, very different. I'm actually talking today about American Crime, but first, the show I watched right before American Crime was CSI Cyber, which is the third spinoff of the perennial popular procedural. It stars Patricia Arquette. It starts tomorrow night, and if Patricia hadn't just won the Oscar for Boyhood, I honestly don't know what else I would have to say about it. It's about cybercrime, and instead of looking through molecular microscopes, they look at computer screens. If you like CSI, you'll like this too. And then I watched American Crime, which is vastly more ambitious, so much better, so much more engrossing. It is a tale of a single murder in a, well, so far, in a small city. And for once, this murder is not of a small child. It's told over the course of 11 episodes. It's from John Ridley, who wrote 12 Years a Slave. And it's got this incredible cinematic feel to it, both visually and sort of thematically. Visually, there are these stunning long takes of single characters, even when they're in the midst of conversations, which really deepens the emotional impact. It's not like CSI where you're just flashing and it's all like, you know, tech and computer and sorry. Really didn't like CSI Cyber. But there's also thematically, there's big issues, there's race, there's class, and it's tackled on a much deeper level than network television normally does. And closest relative, I would say, is The Wire, which, as we all know, is the highest praise any TV critic can give. I'm not saying it's as good as The Wire, but it's pretty good. There's a good mystery here. We have a former soldier who has returned home and is living what seems to be a happy life with his wife, and there's a home invasion. He's killed. His wife has been, I think, beaten into a coma, appears to have been sexually assaulted. The parents of the soldier are played by Timothy Hutton, who is very moving as a man who's trying to atone for having been a lousy father and husband, and Felicity Huffman as his ex-wife, who is all righteous anger, but who is, quite frankly, a big old bigot, which is brought to fore when the arrests are made. The arrests are mostly people who are on the fringes of society. We have interracial addicts in love. We have this Mexican thief, and we have the teenage son of a legal Mexican American who looks down on illegals. The father does, and the father unwittingly makes things much worse for his likely innocent boy. So it's tense. It's extremely compelling. It's sometimes not very nuanced, which is all things that actually can describe its predecessor in this time slot, How to Get Away with Murder, but it's completely different, which actually worries me a lot because I don't know people who are used to sort of like Shonda and everything that goes along with it are really going to get into something that is as challenging as this show. What did you guys think?
I love the.
And, you know, what I'm going to be talking about is
Feel and look and vibe.
Last Man on Earth. And looking at these three shows that we're talking about, you know how people always like to gripe that critics don't like anything. Oh, you guys never like anything. We're going to go 3 for 3 on this show today. And I think one of the common themes is that you have 3 shows which really go off the diving board and take a chance to try to work in an established form, and yet it doesn't seem like anything that's been on the air before. And I think that's true of Kimmy Schmidt. I think it's true of American Crime, and I think it's true, surprisingly, of Last Man on Earth, because I didn't know what to think of this one going in. And I'm sure you guys had the same impression when you got the description of this show for the first time. Apocalyptic storylines are common in movies and in TV dramas, but you don't really see it very often in a comedy. The idea that the human race has been pretty much wiped out. It's not the first pitch on a comedy line. And yet, there's something about this show which is immediately charming and engaging, and the concept sounds right out of the Twilight Zone. In fact, the concept could be a Twilight Zone story. Humanity has been wiped out by a virus, and an average guy played by Will Forte, best known for Saturday Night Live, is what we think, the sole survivor of humanity. He searches the United States, leaving signs that he's alive and in Tucson, hoping to find one more person, hopefully a woman. When he figures out that that doesn't seem likely, he engages in everything that the average guy might do. He makes himself a margarita pool. When the toilet stops working, he turns the backyard pool into one big commode. He goes bowling with Aquarians. He crashes cars into each other. Why? Because he can. And all the rules do not apply. There's a surprise which is coming in this, and I do not want to give it away because I think it would be venturing into spoiler territory. But there is a major question about whether he is the last person on Earth. I think the amazing thing about this show is that for the most part, it's a one-person show. It references Castaway, the Tom Hanks movie. There's a point where he says, I'm never going to get to the point where I'm talking to a volleyball or a soccer ball or whatever Wilson was. He says, I'm never going to get there. And the next thing you see, he's in a bar and he's surrounded by balls of all type, which he's given personalities and he's given names, and he's gone a lot more off the edge than he has. I have no idea whether they can sustain this show, but they have. The first 2 episodes are immediately intriguing, engaging, and I think this is one of the most refreshing comedies to come along in a long time. Guys, what did you think?
Well, I loved it, and I was hoping actually we could spoil it since it premiered on Sunday night, because I found it very difficult to write about ahead of time without saying, well, in the second episode, such and such happens, which takes it in a completely different direction from the first episode, which was delightful all on its own, but not really, I think, what the show is going to end up doing. So if we can't spoil it.
Okay, those who want to stop watching right now.
Okay, gotta go.
Oh, no!
No, go ahead. I've seen it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, okay, let's spoil it. So Kristen Schaal shows up, and she is the last woman on Earth, or so we think, but there actually has been additional casting. And it just develops into this sort of like Lockhorns type show, which I thought was incredibly funny. It's like, you want to think the last woman on Earth is going to be, well, as they sort of gave us a bait and switch, somebody like Alexandra Dario, gorgeous, still with the makeup. And as soon as I saw her face, I was like, oh, they're not going to do that, are they? And then it turned into Kristen Schaal, which was just wonderful. And she's this like very persnickety grammarian, and they just play off each other so well. My one concern is like, if they're the only 2 characters, maybe there will be more. I don't know if I want to keep necessarily watching this, but I really, really love the second episode. I can't wait to see where they go with it.
It was a terrific turn up, and the thing is, she is no more the person you want to be the last woman on Earth than he is the guy you want to be the last man on Earth. He's not Will Smith. He's not some guy who's going to go out and battle zombies. He has survival skills. He's the guy who goes out and he's like a big teenager and says, no rules? Okay. She's the one where there's no traffic, wants to make sure you stop at a stop sign. She's the one who wants to make sure that you're not parking in a handicapped parking spot when you which is just fantastic. And he's like, what difference does it make? We're the only 2 people on Earth, and it still means something to her. She's trying to preserve society, and you're not even sure why, and you're not even sure you like her for the reasons that she does. But I think it's going to get into some very interesting territory. Again, it's a difficult concept to sustain, but I wouldn't have even thought they could have done the first 2 episodes. Dave, what did you think?
I loved him. I loved her. I really loved the direction in that it was so patient and almost all visual or monosyllabic, and set up the story in a really funny, laugh out loud way. I think I agree with both of you. I think they've set themselves up for an incredible heave of writing this show. Where do they go? The good thing about that is I can't wait to find out.
Another thing that I like about this show is it has an antique sense of humor. The character's name is Phil Miller. And the in-joke there is that is the combination of the 2 producers, the writer-producers who are working with Will Forte on this show. So it's Chris Miller and Phil Lord. So they took those 2 names who did the Lego movie and 21 Jump Street. So even behind the scenes, they've got something of an antique sense of humor. And I'm looking forward to more of these. So, well, that's it for this week. But once again, solid proof that critics do like television and a lot of television. I'm be out of the rotation next week, and Vicki Turnquist will be in. So for this week, take care. Keep watching.
Okay.
Bye-bye. See you, Mark. Vicki.